What's up, everyone? It is June 20th. This is the Tesla Beat Podcast 103, and we are on the helm of what is going to be such an epic weekend. Not only from a Tesla community perspective, because I'm here out in Michigan at the summer meetup here in Muskegon, but also to the Tesla Robotaxi launch event that they have on Sunday. Thankfully, we didn't plan this, but one of our actual hosts, Hans, has an invite. So we're going to get his perspective. But quick shout out to Insta360. As you can see, I'm moving here, and the link to see is just follow me all around. And it is one of the most portable devices you can literally find. So we have the Insta360 information for all of their products below, so check them out. And of course, better late than never. We have Brian drinking coffee with some redwoods in the back. How's it going, everyone? How are you doing on this fine Saturday or Friday morning?
I.
Holy crap. So, well, he's frozen. Well, I'm going to say this was totally planned. We knew exactly Hans was going to be invited, and we planned this out for you guys. You're welcome.
Well, so Brian, did you want to say something? I know you kind of cut out a little bit there.
No, I was just
a lot of it.
My good camera battery is dead, so I look like a ghoul on the webcam. What are you going to do?
No worries, but we have two boots on the ground out here in Muskegon. But let's just jump into it. I just real quick, so I'll hit up on the quick stock, and then I just want to jump into all of the Robotaxi information, get Hans's take on the ticket and all of the information. We'll go through some of that as well. The stock is at 322 today versus last week of 317. Again, this was probably about an hour ago, so I'm checking my phone right now to see what the actual market looks like right this second. And of course, it's down. So, but either way, that's the stock. Just a quick update there. All right, well, let's get into it. So I was, of course, knowing Tesla in very Tesla fashion, they dropped us a big dime last night. And of course, I knew that was coming, so I fell asleep several hours before the announcement. Obviously, I did not know. But invites are going out. This is as of last night. But yeah, I would love to, Hans, just give us a download. So you got a ticket, give us a download on what you've seen and heard, some of the insights. Again, I have some screenshots from Sawyer's post and even I think Holmar's on, what is possible inside, but give us a firsthand perspective of what's possible.
So we had seen, I think the other day, James Dalma had got an email that he thought was potentially, some sort of a cyber attack and somebody trying to phish him. And to the best of my knowledge, I haven't spoken to him directly, but that actually was a legitimate email from Tesla inviting him to this program. And so these invites have been trickling out to a few select people this week. And then last night, it seems like we got the actual larger invitation round that went out. And just like we've seen with other events from Tesla, it's potential that there will continue to be more rounds of these invites that are sent out. And of course, they send them out last minute because why not? We are, it's Sunday, it's coming up. And so not a whole lot of time for people to make plans. But I'm sure that they are down to the wire on trying to decide exactly how they're going to roll it out. Is everything looking all on the up and up in the background for them to be able to do this and do this safely? The big, of course, constraint that Tesla's going to be working against is they want to ensure maximum amount of safety and test all of their systems. So, they've done all kinds of in-house alpha testing in the background for quite some time now. And now they're getting ready to let the first external non-employee customers use the system, and they need to sandbox that in a way that really minimizes their risk. And so they don't want too many users. And if you want to limit the number of users, well, then obviously you can't just go to a wide anyone can access the system release. You have to do that in a controlled and trickled way. And so I think that's what we're seeing. We don't really have any confirmation yet from the invites whether this invitation gives you permanent access moving forward to the Tesla Ride Hail app, as long as you don't do something stupid and get yourself kicked off, or if this is like a time boxed, hey, you get to use it this week, and then maybe they'll retract those invitations and let a new group of users on. We'll have to just kind of monitor the situation and see. But the invitation went out, and it obviously said, hey, we're going to launch this service. We've got some rules. You can come use the Ride Hail app. You can bring up to one guest. And then they had their terms of service, the rules for use. They don't want animals in the car unless they're service animals. Who would have guessed that that might be something that they would be concerned about? And a lot of just really, really common sense things. One of the cool pieces of information that was dropped was, hey, we're not actually going to be running the cameras, the internal monitoring cameras inside the vehicle unless you initiate something eventually when the system is actually out of early access. But for early access, yes, we are going to be using the inside cameras, and that obviously is reasonable and makes sense for them, that they want to be able to see what's going on inside the car, maybe record some reactions, I would assume, to then post on social media. But that's how it's going to roll out, that there's going to be a small select group of users. It seems like a lot of the people that are getting invites are from Texas. There's kind of select, some, not everyone, but a lot of people in the area seem to be the primary group that's being invited, and then going out beyond that. So yeah, assuming that this launches on Sunday, we should start seeing an avalanche of content from a whole bunch of creators who are using the system. And then obviously Farzad and I will be, not only because he has an invitation as well, so we'll ride the service, we'll give our perspectives. We'll probably also be having conversations with other people who have done the same. And we're going to be at the beginning of a whole ton of new experiences for the Tesla community, new service, and new conversations and commentary.
But yeah, I just want to pass it to Brian or Joe on just the launch of this.
I will say, you say the rules are reasonable. I think they're deeply unreasonable. No drugs permitted in the cybercab, in the Robotaxi. What is that about? I mean,
no animals.
I think it was
and no bourbon. What the heck?
I think it was Omar who said, "Oh, so Elon tests negative on his drug screen, and now none of us are allowed to smoke crack in the Robotaxi. This is ridiculous." So that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, this is exciting for some people, I guess. My defeated streak remains undefeated, so I did not get an invite. But I do know people who live farther away than me who got them. So it's Jesus Christ. I don't know, but it's this too shall pass like a kidney stone. I'm excited. It's going to happen. It's going to work well. We're going to see endless videos. The fact that cameras are encouraged, and maybe not encouraged, but it says, yes, you can take pictures, you can take videos, you can post them, means they have a degree of confidence that Waymo did not have when they launched. So that's a very different situation, and I think we should all be excited about that.
Yeah, I want to say that I'm super jealous, and I think it's really, really weird that Hans just happens to live in the state, and so he gets all these benefits. It's just so
playing
unfair.
The long game.
Well played, Hans. No, I think it's pretty
this
cool.
This has been the plan since Tesla initially bought the Fremont factory. I'm like, I'm going to be in Texas so that I can be near Gigafactory Austin for the launch of Robotaxi.
He's sneaky, you guys. Watch out.
You can tell he had this planned. So No, I think it's pretty cool. I think what they're trying to do is like what Brian and like both Hans said. It's they are playing it safe. Of course, they have to be because as we know with everything, Tesla is viewed through a different lens and more critical and everything. So you just know that all eyes are on the event. They even tried to stop it, even though it was going to happen anyways. But so here we are. It's happening. And you know what's funny is even though like they were trying to get a delay on it, they would have been like, see, they couldn't even do it on time. It just freaking crazy. But it is happening. It's going down. I think it's going to be awesome. And Brian, there's a +1 involved. You're good, bro.
Yeah, Joe Techmeyer offered me a +1 for Sunday. So if I can teleport from this event to Sunday. Now, if it is possible that it's not just a Sunday thing, that it is an ongoing thing, that he's part of the program, then it can actually work. But I've had people saying, no, just go down and see if you can find. I'm not adding 1,500 miles to my journey for a maybe possibly, because I've done that for Texas too many times and I'm not doing it again. But if it is an ongoing thing where Joe can just summon a ride whenever, I'm there.
And he wouldn't be the only.
Go ahead, Hans.
I said Joe wouldn't be the only one that you could ride along with. I think you might know some other people.
Hans.
Yeah, but who, Hans? Who?
I know a guy. He's on the podcast. So for myself, actually, we were shooting the breeze before we started the podcast. Hans and Joe were on, and I think that this for me is kind of like the launch of what we've all thought all these years. And what I mean by that is, when I bought my first Tesla Model 3 back in July of 2028, this is how I saw the future of being able to get into a car and it fully takes you there. And it's possible today, but obviously we know it's supervised. But this, in my opinion, is kind of a glimpse and the launch of what hopefully will become, very much part of the future as far as the automotive transportation, especially here, not only in Austin, it'll grow to the Bay Area, LA, and everywhere else. But this is ultimately, I think kind of like the glimpse of, okay, and really, Tesla being able to be listed as a autonomous vehicle operator in Austin. This is really like, hey, you stop looking at these delivery numbers of cars. It's no longer a car company. It's it's an autonomy, AI robotics company. And so for me, it's just like, this is kind of like, again, there's a lot that still needs to happen. And again, we'll see how the regulations work. But really, for me, this is why I got into the Tesla world, why I eventually, I started the club first and then became an investor. But it was because of my experience driving in these cars. So for me, this is kind of like really that Super Bowl moment this Sunday. I'm going to be rooting for all of the people getting those rides. I'm super excited that they're allowed to share their experiences. And hopefully, it's a great experience that we can all kind of witness through them or firsthand experience in Hans's case. But for me, this is, been 7 years coming. And again, 2 weeks, we all know Elon's been kind of overly optimistic. But for me, it's, hey, in a couple of weeks, we're just going to be like, oh yeah, Tesla's already, they're running autonomous vehicles already in Austin, and it's going to grow, right? Because we know that that's happening with Waymo. But people are now going to be able to think, oh, did you go to New York and hail a Waymo? It's going to be like, oh, did you go to New York and also hail, a Tesla experience, right? Because, yeah. So I'm personally really, really excited. I think this is a big moment for Tesla, for the community, for investors, and really for the future of autonomous vehicles and AI.
2028, John's from the future. So also, I think that just like you said, Elon's been hinting at this. He's been talking about it. He promised it so many years ago. So I'm pretty sure he is going to be there to kick this thing off, and he's going to make it a big thing because this is what he's been wanting to happen so many years ago when they were just with the with Mobileye. So here we are.
Yeah. Sorry, I was saying, Joe, someone's really close to you. I realize you're at the supercharger. All right. So I think, Hans, you shared a little bit about some of the parameters, but sounds like Sawyer, thankfully with all of his great insights, he actually shared all of the parameters. So I'm just going to call out some of them. And again, this is for the early access phase only, which is a quick key call out. This is not necessarily what, once it's rolled out completely, what it'll look like. But you must read through all of the instructions. Obviously, that's a given. You must have a credit card and debit card on file. And I believe most of the people I've seen that have gotten an invite are all Tesla owners. So at least so I think that should not be a problem. You may request a ride in the app to/from anywhere in the geofenced area, excluding any airports between 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. midnight every day of the week. Note that service may be limited or unavailable in the event of the inclement weather. So obviously Austin has a lot of weather changes as well. Only the invitee may download and use the Robotaxi app to hail the Robotaxi ride. Please be courteous and treat the service with respect. Your participation in the early access program may be terminated by various reasons, including violating these parameters or engaging in unsafe and disrespectful behavior. And then provide a star rating and feedback from your experience in the app. And then photos and videos of the experience are okay. This is all what I would expect in the rollout. And again, it sounds like obviously they had to state, no animals outside of service animals. And then same thing, obviously, no drugs, hopefully that's the fact that they have to state that. But what are your guys' thoughts on this? Again, I know some of this, Hans, you had mentioned, but was there any surprises in any of this or anything that you would have expected more of?
Again, just because they're allowing cameras, video, photos, to me, that's a very encouraging sign that I wasn't quite expecting. I thought maybe they would lock it down a little more. I thought maybe at this stage they wouldn't even allow people from social media and the media to get access to it. So I think that's an upside surprise.
Yeah, I think all of the, other than Brian's point there about the fact that we do get to bring along camera equipment, I think it's quite likely that they waited until they're ready to bring camera equipment along to roll it out in the first place, because they do want the buzz. And it would kind of be a disappointment, I think, from the Tesla community standpoint, if the rides were happening, but the community wasn't able to get a window into how that worked and what the experience was like. And I'm trying to remember. So at the Robotaxi, at 1010 event, I do remember that they allowed people to film inside the vehicle as well. So if they were able to do it at the 1010 event, it would seem consistent that they would want to be able to allow that here. But it is a great sign because, to Brian's point, this is the first company that has allowed that at launch. And I'm sure they are trying to minimize the occurrences of people filming Robotaxis doing the same kind of silly things that Waymos do, where they'll just get into a parking lot and go in circles, or some of those types of things. And so they have to have, all of the countermeasures in place to prevent those types of things ahead of time. But I think that they do. And I'm really excited to experience everything. And then all the other requirements, I think they make, complete and total sense. Yeah.
Like no chihuahuas.
Or honey badger.
What if your chihuahua is a service animal? So what strikes me as interesting is how Tesla owners are when it comes to these sort of things. So Waymo, you get in, you go to your destination, and you're not really thinking too much about it. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh, this is cool. It's going to take me to my destination. But Tesla owners are always trying to break it, always trying to push it to its limits. So people are going to be trying to do stuff while they get in and trying to trick it to a certain destination right on the parameters. Everybody knows the freaking geofence. So I already know there's going to be so much stuff happening.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, I thought the parameters were well within what you would expect. I mean, it's what you see probably within Waymo too, and obviously, I think, especially if you're in the early access program, it's a privilege to be in it. It's not a right, so use that cautiously. But and then, well, obviously, we know privacy is very much a huge part of being a Tesla owner. Tesla's, just huge on privacy. So one thing about the actual, I think it's Hans, you said this is more on the service side, but it makes sense because obviously there's going to be a person sitting in the passenger side anyways when you experience it. But specifically Tesla, during an active Robotaxi ride, the cabin camera is not used unless you initiate a request for support or operator assistance is required in the case of an emergency. So this is privacy comes standard, but I thought that is a great, just a great call out because again, you don't want to feel like the eye of Sauron is always watching.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think it's good that they're letting people know straight up, and you can choose to opt out. I don't know. Can you do that in Waymo?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure what Waymo's requirements are, or I believe that I think they let you know that they're recording, right? Like even when you get in the car, right?
But you can't opt out of it like you can with the.
Yeah. All right. So this was something, shout out to Nicola Brussels, handle on X. Again, we are on the brink of this. And also one call out too, June 28th, supposedly Elon's birthday, they are going to be giving the first delivery of a Tesla from the factory in Austin to someone's house that lives in Austin as well. So, but this was something shared by Nicola Brussels, that he took a picture of current autonomous vehicle operations in Austin. We obviously have the Waymo with the Jaguar I-Pace, Zoox with the Toyota Highlander. I mean, look at all these lidars. And then you have Zoox, not yet in Austin. They are registered there. Then you have the VW ADMT ID Buzz, and then a V-Ride in a Hyundai Ioniq, and then obviously Tesla. So I think that this is really cool. Again, just a sign of what's happening. I know that there was some people saying, oh, it was, the event was supposed to be on June 12th, and that obviously came. But again, I think it was just more of a permitting thing. And, officially we have not heard really until these invites. I know Elon mentioned June 22nd, but that was all tentative. So exciting to see this. This is happening. Austin is going to become a autonomous vehicle powerhouse, so really exciting to see. Hans, were you going to say something?
It's going to be a hub for incredible technology development that takes us forward into the future.
Not going to be. It already is.
Facts.
Yeah, especially with just Elon bringing all of his companies. I mean, you're taking technologies that are literally that are changing people's lives, and bringing a huge economy with him as he rolled into Texas. All right, so something that came out this week, Tesla is making the most American-made cars that are still sexy. Fourth year in a row, Tesla ranks #1. So the model, literally 1 through 4 is all Tesla, from the 3 to the Y to the S and the X. But huge shout out to them and their engineering team, and even I think really largest team as well, the whole vehicle engineering team, for just putting and engineering a vehicle where you can get into it knowing that you are in the safest car on the planet, and their ratings continuously blow out the standards. And so I know huge accolades to them on this. One of the things that made made me think of this actually was, when you think of SpaceX, right, and you think of all of the regulations that NASA and really the FAA has, their goal is always to beat out those standards and really set the new standard. And so in this case, like you see, the pour over happening from Elon's companies, not only in building rockets, but just vehicles is always raising the bar above everybody else. All right. So Tesla's dominating, specifically, this is Europe. They're dominating. I believe this was June data so far. They are dominating with about 19% of the market and almost double that of Volkswagen. So again, on the left, you actually have all of the OEMs combined. And then on the right, it's actually listed by model. So again, just 2 months ago, 3 months ago, in February, March, and even April 2nd, like people were like just talking about how Tesla was going doom and gloom. Like there's so much brand damage. Elon's tanking the company. There's no CEO at the helm of Tesla, and that this company was doomed and the stock was going to zero. Or shout out to Tim Waltz as well for making that call in front of all those people and saying that he to get a high, he loves being able to look at the stock go down. So it's just crazy to see the quick turnaround. And with Tesla on everything, it's important to allow, because again, they're dealing with operations. They can speak to those operations, and so all of those things were just FUD and fake news. At the end of the day, sure, they were stats, but again, this is a company who is taking 3 to 5 weeks and putting in brand new operations to build the best-selling car in the world across 4 different gigafactories or factories. But really cool to see Tesla make that swing back. And now they're taking up 20% of the market with the Model 3 and Model Y.
If you look at, we talked about this at the time. Oh, it's so much brand damage. It's the end of the road. Look, guys, if we said it then, if it was the other way around, if for some reason sentiments were at all-time highs, how much higher would Model Y sales have been in Q1? No higher. No higher at all, because you can't sell a car you're not building. We tried to tell you guys, but it seems the big brains on Wall Street don't have time for this podcast. They're busy getting ready for their weekend, their yachts and their cabins and their chalets. So you guys get a little advantage over Wall Street people that way. You can't. We're seeing good numbers in China. We're seeing good numbers in Spain, UK, a handful, Norway, a handful of other places. But now we're starting to see good numbers in most countries. Singapore had a huge record. Hong Kong did great. It's how do you make the world's best-selling car sell a little better? You make the car a little better, and that's what they did.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah, I can't go into details, but I'm excited. If you get a chance to tour the factory in Fremont, again, probably even Austin, but you will be able to get and see like what was changed. And all I can say is it was what looks to be a complete overhaul. And so really it just goes into insights of like Tesla being able to they didn't just take what they had, made a couple of adjustments. This is something like them standing up pretty much a brand new car from top to bottom, outside of maybe the side panels, from top to bottom, and built a brand new production line is what it feels like. But this is not something that is just was a couple of bolt switches, right? So if you get a chance to see the new factories, your mind's just gonna be blown because of what it was potentially before, what it is now. Speaking of strong numbers, again, Tesla beating out BYD in Europe for May. Again, as I'm going to steal the sentence from Brian, you can't sell a car that is not being made. Again, so shout out to all of the people who made their videos they did not age well as far as, the brand damage and Tesla, going to zero. Because you're seeing the exact opposite, as Brian was calling out, in all of those regions, they're just bouncing back in a huge way. So, just really exciting to see this.
And it looks increasingly likely that BYD is the Evergrande of electric vehicles. There's a lot of question marks about their supply base's ability to stay solvent, the number of vehicles that they are actually selling to customers versus just hiding on, some lot for multiple years. All the things that Tesla Q accused Tesla of for years falsely seem to be actually pretty spot on the money when it comes to BYD, which doesn't necessarily mean that they will be a company that can't survive given the amount of national support that they have. But yeah, that's always something to keep in mind in this head-to-head competition.
So I would caution extreme, be very careful with those claims on BYD, because I keep seeing these stories, I keep trying to research these stories, and I keep finding nothing but dead ends. And all of the stories seem to point back to the NDT network, Epoch Times, China Observer, this whole big family of pro-Taiwan independence websites that despise all things China, all things mainland China, I guess I should say. And when I dig, I can't find their sources. The 0 kilometer car sales thing was a claim made by the CEO of a rival company, Great Wall Motors, without evidence. And the investigation has started. There's still no evidence. It looks like there were dealers that went broke who turned around and sold their inventory overseas. But that doesn't mean, I'm waiting for valid sources, is I guess what I would say.
Hey, that's great additional information. So hopefully, I would prefer that we have people who can make electric vehicles profitably other than Tesla, and that the world can continue to move towards more electric vehicle sales. And that would definitely be good for everyone involved. So hopefully you're correct on that.
And I would add that a lot of people are saying, the companies in China aren't making money. They're selling at a loss. And I say, like Rivian, like Lucid, like Volkswagen, that's everybody except Tesla and maybe BYD and Volvo in 2 consecutive quarters and not since. So, it's a tough racket. Yeah. Tesla makes it look easy.
Yeah, go ahead, Hans.
I was just going to ask Brian if you have seen any confirmation or not confirmation on the reports about the days payable really ballooning for BYD.
I haven't seen it myself, but the people who've been following it, like AJ and Alex and some of the others, are sources that I trust. So the days payable, I think that is a legitimate issue. But the other things, like I saw, they're creating their own crypto coin to pay suppliers. They're not. That's not a thing. Crypto isn't even legal in China. So it is, when something seems extreme, it's BYDQ. It's the same caliber of nonsense that we're seeing. The idea that they would get a $3,000 subsidy and then make profit somehow, and by selling the car for 30, 40, 50% off, it doesn't. I don't know how these news outlets make these reports with a straight face, but they don't have a straight face. They're pushing an agenda, so it's wild.
Yeah, my opinion on BYD. Well, so first off, I think you made a great call out, Brian. Is that Tesla? We're spoiled here, right? We all run and make content on Tesla specifically. Tesla was a thought leader. They weren't necessarily the first person to make an electric vehicle, as we've seen. Some were even being made back, in the 1940s, 50s, whatever years those were. And then GM made the first one as well that hit the road, and then they ended up grabbing all of them and destroying them. But Tesla, what Tesla has accomplished is just next level. It's something that companies could only dream of. And something that most companies still have not reached at all. And what Tesla has done is in tackling the high-end market with the Roadster, the S and the X, to do all of the R&D, to then have a mass market car that is still profitable and that they can flex up and down in times of these bad economic headwinds, with whether it's tariffs being American made and building the supply chain literally across 4 different having 4 factories in China, the two or I guess 4 or 5 in the US if you count the regular factories, and then obviously Giga Berlin as well. And so what Tesla has done again is we should not just overlook that, in that we aren't, I'm not saying we are, but it's just a huge accomplishment. And also too, in these stats, Tesla's just what I would actually love to have in front of me would be the prices of these cars, because I can tell you right now that Tesla is probably on some of these cars, like even BYD, sometimes there's cases where it's 2 times more. Maybe, I know some of the prices have come down since then, but in all of these cases, Tesla is leading, and they're beating out by selling a better car. And again, this is Europe, where I also want to call out, in Europe, you don't have FSD. You're kind of stuck with that. It's pretty much parity with all of the autopilot technologies right now. And so whether it's a Mercedes or BMW or whatever, the experience of autopilot is pretty much at parity now. And that's really, like, imagine if people had access to FSD. That again is what you're going to see even in the United States. The reason why I will never buy another EV right now is that my car drives itself. I literally went to the Muskegon supercharger, took me there, got out, got McDonald's, got back in the car, and drove back to the place I'm staying. It's like, that's like my lifestyle now. And once you get adjusted to that, you're not going to want to adjust to something else. And again, first world problems, but that's the Tesla experience. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I was distracted by noises here in what presumably is the forest moon of Endor.
No, Ewoks. No, but you know what, John, you bring up a good point, and I think that kind of gets overlooked with all the noise and everything that's going on with all the sales data and everything that gets put out, is that Tesla is doing this with a vehicle prices like almost double that of its competitors, and they're still outselling it in vast numbers. And the only people that are keeping up is BYD, and at a fraction of a cost, and not even at the profit margins. And like a lot of that gets lost on the fact that they are doing this without FSD in a lot of countries, without the price, parity like that some of the competitors have, and they're still doing it, and people just want to dump on it. And it's staggering when you think about it. And we haven't even gotten to like the lower price vehicles or any of that yet. It's crazy.
I did want to say, add on to what John said a minute ago. They do have not just profit, but profit on a big ticket item. It's great. Tesla in China makes more profit per sold Model Y than it costs to buy a Wuling Mini. How do you compete with Tesla when, if you had 100% profit margin, you'd still be making less money per unit than Tesla? So that's got to count for something.
Just a little bit. And I think, again, I haven't done the math recently, but a lot of time, for years, again, all of us can speak to this, is, people would say, oh, Tesla can't make a profit without these, incentives that they're getting from, like the EU and all of these carbon credits and all this other stuff. But even when you remove that, Tesla continues to be profitable. Again, I haven't checked the last couple of quarters, but I remember that they beat that out and that FUD was removed. Joe, you're on mute. Or Hans too.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, well, there was a lot of that, and like Brian always says, the dollars are still real dollars. It's still real money. But also the fact that like you were saying with the FSD and with everything else, it's just that this is all happening like early stages. We are still in the beginning of all of this. Like, And that's wild to me.
But it is also just important to remember that Elon has called out for quite some time that in order to be a successful company, Tesla would have to navigate both the transition to EVs, but also the transition to autonomy. And that, I think a lot of the energy that people were expecting to be put into continuing to just grow the volume unit sales of Tesla vehicles indefinitely have been kind of put on hold while they absolutely focus on getting the autonomy piece right, which is why this Robotaxi service launch this month is such a big deal. There's so many different ways they could have approached trying to roll out autonomy and the monetization of autonomy. They could have, played it much safer and tried to increase the amount of utility that FSD gives to the consumers and charge higher and higher prices for those. And then eventually you get to a place where it goes unsupervised and then you can build your Robotaxi network on top of it. But ultimately the Robotaxi network is, the big shining prize, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And the fact that Elon, like, this is just so typical of his leadership style. He's like, no, we're going to go at the big, hard, important, useful use case first. And that, even though there are maybe easier paths or safer paths or, more consistent paths, we're just going to find like what is the most important, hardest, most useful thing that we can do. And we're going to go directly at that as quickly as we possibly can, even if it means not doing, the car with the steering wheel and pedals that people so badly wanted to have. That's this compact vehicle that we still haven't seen yet. I like, that's where, it's very similar to saying in 2014 or whenever the first announcement was that, hey, we are going to build a battery factory in Nevada that has the capacity to match the world's entire battery manufacturing capacity this year. That was nuts. And this is what Elon is doing for autonomy and for robotaxis. Again, like the company is all in, and that is, the big thing when it doesn't necessarily, you can have a lot more impact on the total miles number of driven that are electric if they are robotaxis compared to if they are consumer vehicles. And this is one of the arguments that, Brian and Jesse have been making for so long, is that Tesla's not going to sell cars to consumers because it's not going to make sense. You'll have so much bigger impact if you do robotaxis. And, I don't know that necessarily they won't sell any cars to consumers, but they have definitely reduced the amount of investment they are making into selling cars that are purpose built to be sold to consumers, because they agree that the upside for those robotaxi vehicles is much, much more important.
And I would say that they will continue selling cars if you love driving, if that's really your jam. I think the fact that they're still making S and X should tell you that they'll make 3 and Y for a long time after it makes sense. So I think, yeah, and it does make sense to have a robotaxi out instead of a car. We don't need 20 million units a year if we're doing robotaxis that have 5x the utility, that are actually out doing rides all the time. Yeah, you only need 4 million units to satisfy that same transit demand, regardless of the addressable market for rideshare. People looking at it as just what's the market for rideshare are ignoring that a big chunk, like 30% of Uber's revenue, is not from rideshare, it's from Uber Eats. That's a new thing that just kind of happened. Nobody was using a taxi to get lunch. Taxi drivers don't want to deal with that. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of market out there to be had, and Tesla will have the most efficient vehicles on a watt hour per mile basis, and the cheapest ones and the easiest ones to put in service. If I had a choice between a robotaxi that worked and a Waymo that worked, I wouldn't take the Waymo for free because it wouldn't be worth it.
One thing I want to shout out to our one of our favorite analysts, Kathy Wood. She called out the Robotaxi, per mile cost is like $2 to $4. And with Tesla at scale, it'll be like literally 25 cents. So, and not only that, obviously with Waymo and with Waymo, it's possible right now, but especially I know a bunch of my lady friends, I know my wife, they would all feel more comfortable in a driverless car, so they don't have to deal with someone who's going to be there. And I know even for myself, there's a lot of times I want to get in the car, I just want to do my thing, I need to work. I don't really want to deal or interact with someone else. And so not only is this going to cost a tenth of what Uber and Lyft rides are going to cost, but you're not going to have to deal with someone else's vehicle. It's going to be something that's maintained and the service is all going to be done by Tesla. So it's really, this is the future. And I think, Hans, you said a great point. I remember when we interviewed, and I've said this like several times, when I interviewed Elon back in May of 2022, he said that, again, this is before the robot and all that stuff, the humanoid robot, but Tesla being worth what it was in 2022 versus zero is whether or not they accomplish FSD. So this is a huge part of what Tesla is.
And it's one of the big things that continues to differentiate them from BYD. Like, it's not just about sales and profits, but none of the other major competitors are anywhere even close to Tesla when it comes to being able to offer autonomy at scale and then monetize autonomy at scale. And that is, obviously the huge business use case for the technology. And that's why Tesla's valuation is so much higher than anyone else, because the entire market knows and agrees that GM, Ford, Rivian, Lucid, none of these companies have a shot at capturing meaningful market share of autonomous miles at scale.
I unfortunately need to get inside. I will melt. It is beginning to drizzle a little here. So I thank you, gents. And
Brian,
see you in a little bit.
Brian got rained out of the podcast.
Yeah. See you guys.
Make sure you give Brian a follow at FutureAza, but he's also boots on the ground with myself here at Muskegon, Michigan for the summer meetup run by the Tesla owners of Michigan. So, but yeah, I agree with you on all those points. It's really, really exciting. One other thing I did want to mention, not that you needed to know or that we needed to prove you guys wrong. Elon is drug-free. So not that you're going to believe doctors and, his receipts and stuff. But because, even if Elon showed these receipts, people are still going to say he's taking drugs. But as someone who has interviewed him multiple times, who's spent time with him, not that I'm counting the amount of hours that I've spent with him, but like, I can tell you right now, he is a guy who will space out when he's thinking about something. Sometimes it will take him 30 to 40 seconds just to give you an answer when he is in deep thoughts. And there's a lot of his mannerisms that the public is not used to and will call, oh, he's on drugs or something else. I mean, he has shared that he has, he's shared his, not only, is it Asperger's? Is that what it was? Yes, he has Asperger's, but he's also, just to be honest, again, he is 100% a human. He may be an alien too, but he is 100% a human who has Asperger's, but his thought and how he sees things is on another level and planet in a lot of ways. And I have seen that firsthand when we spent 4 hours with him in Austin. So it's one of those things that people won't get. People are just going to assume, oh, he's like spacing out, looking up in the world. No, he's thinking during that process, and something is going on in his mind. And I believe, Joe, this is one of those things too. Remember, I think Kimball even shared something about his brother and how dinner was like the only time that they could really ever get together. And it was like the time where they would, Kimball loved being able to sit down and cook everyone dinner, because it was the only time to really sit down and like have those conversations. But most of the time, I think the way for everyone in their family, they just are always thinking on something. That's just how their mind works. And all of the Musk children, specifically under May, are doing crazy things in their various industries.
Facts.
All right, China sales. I think it was up like 16%. But long story short, again, I wish I had the prices next to these, but the volume, and it dipped. I believe it dipped pretty bad in May, but again, everyone else dipped as well. So you can't just look at the weeks. So I'm really excited. Either way, what you need to take away from this is the China numbers are strong. Every other region is strong. After people just communicating FUD that this company is going to zero. All right, new $300 million Tesla Megapack battery. Can't speak today. By French renewable power producer. I'm just going to call this Eon or something. Has kicked off operations of the 270 megawatt Western Downs Battery Stage 1 battery project. So this is happening in Australia, even though it is a French renewable power producer. So big things happening in Australia. They get it. A lot of sun happening down under. All right. This was also another stat too. Again, I believe there's some parameters here, but this is Tesla FSD versus the average U.S. American and Waymo, right? And obviously, you can see even Tesla beating out Waymo along with the average American here. But just some cool insights from Bloomberg Intelligence. Again, we are on the helm of what is going to happen on Sunday. So really, really exciting to kind of see some of these stats come out.
I just wanted to highlight, on the one hand, the miles driven by the Tesla and the miles driven by Waymo are qualitatively different, since most of the miles driven by the Waymo are not, have a human supervisor in the car that is able to intervene. But that also, on the flip side, I think highlights the safety approach that Tesla has had from the very beginning, is that until that software is like 10x safer than human, it's really helpful actually to develop that software within a setting where you do have that hybrid of the human looking out for crashes in the way that the human does, and our instincts and our reasoning capabilities, and then the 360-degree visibility and situation monitoring that the Tesla vehicles have with their cameras that go all around the vehicle and don't get distracted, don't get bored, and have perfect visibility all around the car. And so that's obviously something that is going to be safer than a pure software system, even with LiDAR, that is, it doesn't have the benefit of having that the real-time human intervention while the software is not yet mature. Now, eventually, both of these software stacks will get to be so great that they'll be able to achieve those types of safety results by themselves without human intervention. But that's, we're still in this process of building that software to that level of maturity. And so I think it's very smart that Tesla used this approach. And, the fact that haters want to hate and say that they're never going to be better than human and the system's never going to work is, neither here nor there. This was the right approach.
Yeah, it's
agreed.
I mean, we're lucky to have been following this company as long as we have and covering every level of detail. But this is going to be something that we all will be able to share as far as like the in-depth details of how forward thinking that this company was versus all of the other companies and really just people. I mean, it's crazy to think that, what was it, 2012 when Elon was talking about the supercharger network and building that out. And now it's literally the gas station for all EVs, at least here in Europe and North America. All the people that wanted to go get rid of their Teslas end up still using the supercharger network anyways, because of Elon and whatever. It's still going to feed your juice, right? Because there's nothing like reliability of 99.9% of the Tesla supercharger network.
Filling stations. We're going to call them filling stations.
All right. So one other thing we did not share was the fact that, I think we just talked about what Tesla is doing today, but We know Tesla should be dropping a couple of new vehicle products this year. Again, that's based on some of the images we've seen. It's all public information. But they are actively hiring for a bunch of roles for new products. So super exciting. There's also a ton of Optimus jobs out there as well. So, here continues to be the signal that these guys are moving very much forward. And no, Matt, I am not in the EU right now. All right. So we are coming to a close here. If you live in the Midwest, please jump over here to Michigan at the summer meetup. We would love to see you. And obviously, we have the X Takeover on July 25th and 26th. So make sure you go to the xtakeover.com. Hans, Joe, myself, even Brian, we will all be featured speakers, presenters in some fashion on various topics as well. So, and we have Lars Morovi and Steve Jurvenson who are going to be there. And, obviously we'll see how this Robotaxi rolls out. We'll be asking Lars some really cool questions in depth about, the Robotaxi and really just the future of vehicle engineering as well. But just super excited for that. Please make sure you give Hans a follow because you're going to have a lot of FOMO this weekend as he shares his experiences inside the Robotaxi. So it's a Hans C. Nilsson on X. We also have his YouTube channel checked out as well. And Joe, thank you again, as always, for being the veteran owner as you are, or FOMO Joe, which came from you don't want to miss the X Takeover. So you can see FOMO Joe live there. But yeah, we will see you guys all next week. Give Hans a follow, use his referral code if you like some of his content.
Yeah, don't forget, if you want to own your own car that can be a Robotaxi for you, use ts.la/Hans71453 to get a discount on your Tesla.
Exactly. But yeah, make sure you give them give all the hosts a follow. Make sure you, if you're looking to buy a Tesla, use one of the referral codes, the one Hans mentioned, or some of the other ones. But we will see you all next week. We will give you live updates of all of the content that has been shared. And obviously, Hans, you will have to share what his first experience was like. But we will catch you guys all next week. Have a great week, everyone.